Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wealth Metric Podcasts, where we discuss top secrets of investors. We have with us in this episode somebody who is an expert in the topic that we're going to be looking at today. Actually, I call him I call him the king of flip, because today we're going to look at how investors can flip properties with almost no money down. And this is somebody that has been doing flip for ages. He's a very successful person who runs the seven-figure flip. I want to introduce to you this afternoon the person of Bill Allen. Bill Allen, you're welcome to this episode of our podcast, Wealth Metric Podcast.
James, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk to you today.
Yeah. So, Bill, before we just go on to you giving us how we can flip property with almost no money down, do you want to just tell us about yourself, your background, and your journey so far, so that our audience can relate with you?
Sure, absolutely. So let's see. I won't go too far back, but I have an engineering background in college and master's degree there. So I'm a numbers guy. That might give you an idea of the way that I think and the data that I like to use for a lot of things in real estate. And I went in the Navy. I went in the military. I flew helicopters and airplanes for the Navy. And I actually was stationed at Boscombe Down in the UK, there in Amesbury, right by Stonehenge, for a year. And I was going to test pilot school. So I went to their test pilot school there in the UK and spent a year there. And that's actually where I really kind of started looking into real estate and getting more addicted to it. I felt like I had a couple rental properties before then, and that was in, let's see, 2012. And I had a couple rental houses that were cash flowing, and I was seeing my net worth go up. And I was starting to think about my future, like a family, getting married, stuff like that. And that took me to my financial freedom down the road and how I was going to, bring in money for not just me. So I was watching these flipping shows. I was talking to pre-show, I was watching a show called Homes Under the Hammer there in the UK. And I love that show. Like, I'm watching all this stuff and learning more about real estate. And so when I got back, I was reading books while I was there in England. And when I got back to Maryland to do my test pilot job, that's when I flipped my first house. So it was like 2012, 2013, right around there. So about 7, 8 years ago. And I was still flying for the Navy full time. So I was still working full-time job, and I flipped one house a year that first year. And then this next year I flipped another one. We moved to Florida. And that's when I really wanted to scale my business and kind of grow it. I'd heard people that were doing 50 houses, 100 houses a year, and I was having trouble doing one house a year with my full-time job. And I didn't have a ton of money. I didn't have a bunch of access to a ton of capital, or even really understand what I was doing all the time. I was just kind of taking action and doing it. So that third year, so the first year, one house, I flipped one house. The second year, one house. The third year, we did 67 houses. And I say we, it was like me and a small team that I kind of hired one person at a time that year to grow. And that company, Seven Figure Flipping, is a mastermind group that I joined. I was a paying member at the time. And I saw other people doing it at a really high level. So 67 houses, and that was a mix of wholesaling and flipping. So we flipped we actually renovated and fixed up about 12 houses that year. And the rest, we just kind of took the house under contract and sold the contract to other flippers or landlords. And that next year after that, we did 135 deals. The year after that, 187. And we've been doing somewhere in the mid, 150s to 180s the next couple of years. So, we're doing over $3 million in top line gross profit in the company right now. And we got about 15 people that work with me full time. So I've left the Navy. I'm still a reservist. I fly part time, but I did almost 15 years of active duty. And then I decided it's time to spend more time with my family and put all my effort into this real estate thing. So that's the short answer.
Oh, I just can't believe it that within 7 years, you've achieved so much. That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing in that is realizing that it's possible. I was fortunate enough to get around other people that were doing these. I wasn't hanging around the people that were doing one deal a year or two deals a year. And I was able to get in front of and around the people that were doing a higher volume and building companies. And I wouldn't say like high volume is for everybody. Like there are ups and downs of it, and we can certainly talk about it on this podcast. And the numbers, like I made more money that third year when I did 67 deals when it was a small team than I do now. Like I don't make as much money now, but I find a lot more fulfillment in what I do now, and seeing my staff and my team grow, like them make more money than they ever thought that they could. They love their job. We have an amazing culture in the company. And I actually don't work right now in that company. In the real estate company, I only spend about 2 hours a week in that company in a meeting with my COO, and he runs it full time. So I've been able to trade my time. Like I got my time back, but I don't make as much money as I did when I was actively involved all the time in it. And that's what I wanted to do. So some other people might want to do something else, but it's doable. It's possible. You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. I'll promise you that. So anybody listening, they just have to kind of start taking some action and then get around the people that are already doing things at a really high level.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Bill. One thing we do hear people say when it comes to real estate is they don't have money. They don't have money, no investors, etc., etc. Now, do they really have to have money for them to go into the real estate business?
Well, you know, when you talk about money, there's a couple things to talk about here. So I look at when I'm starting a company, and I'm not talking about actually flipping the house. We'll talk about how you absolutely don't need any money to flip a house, and we can talk about that. But when you're talking about starting a business, there is going to be some funds or some time that is needed. So whenever I talk about these two things, I think they have a direct relationship in them. So people that say that you don't need any time or any money and you can get in the real estate business, they're probably selling you something that you probably shouldn't buy. But it's usually, for me, it was time or money, the way that I looked at it in starting my business, like getting my business going. Yeah. So for the folks that have a lot of time, you can actually hustle a lot harder. You can do a lot of things that you can help another investor potentially get going. There's a lot of things that you can do. And then if you have some money, but you don't have a lot of time, I kind of fell in that bucket. I had some money to start my business. I had put aside some capital to get some marketing going, to, you know, a couple systems, hire a person because I didn't have any time. And that's how I got started. So I look at those two things anytime I teach or talk to anybody. It's those two things. Like you got to have one or the other to get that business going. Now, if you want to flip a house and you could find a deal, then you don't necessarily need to have any money. And the reason that is there's a couple different ways to find capital when it comes to flipping. You actually have an asset now. You've got a hard asset that has some value. And what you can do is you can take that asset to some sort of investor. I mean, it could even be a bank. I've gotten loans from the bank at 80% of value, and then I had to find a private lender to come in on the other 20%. So I've gotten bank financing on some flips that we've done. We did a four townhouses down in Pensacola where the bank financed 80% and all the rehab costs. So all I had to do was come up with about $150,000 from somebody else to have no money out of pocket. And we made like $250,000 on those 4 houses with almost no money invested out of our own pocket, just finding the deal, right? So there's banks, there's hard money lenders, there's people who do this professionally. Short-term loans at high interest rates, typically professionally. And then you've got private lenders, and this is my favorite. Like you have people that are out there looking for you. If you have an opportunity, if you have an investment vehicle, you have something that can make them money, and they have money, they are looking for you. Like you're not asking them for money, you're not begging for a loan. They're actually looking for opportunities that they can invest their money in and make a return. Yeah. And I love private lenders because they can lend. They're not like a bank. They don't have underwriting criteria where they can only lend at 80% of value or 75%. They can lend at 120%. You know, you can work out a deal that's a win-win. It's got to be a win-win, and you can get loans at 5%. I've got loans at 5 and 6% right now from friends, family members, previous coworkers, people like that. And you don't have to like really know these people, like them, trust you, all that stuff, have to have a rich aunt or uncle. There's people out there that are looking for opportunities just like that all the time. Right now, money is more prevalent than the deals are in my area for sure. So if you can find that property, that deal, then the money usually can find you.
Can find you. Good. Oh, good. I'm so happy that you've been able to separate those two so people know. When you want to start a business, you need money, but not flip. Thank you very much for that. Now, if we look at flipping houses, there are some misconceptions that people have. Can you tell us about the number one misconception that people have when it comes to house flipping?
Well, so the first thing I think is you have to know everything. Like I feel people will educate themselves to death sometimes before they jump into things. And, you know, look, I told you in the beginning, I'm an engineer. So I look at stuff, I want to know how it works. I want to educate myself, all of those things. But what I find is a lot of times people will just spend way too long educating themselves. And I did too. I spent a long time educating myself. So I think the biggest misconception is that, like, when I look at that, you look at risk and reward, right? When you go out there, and people are afraid to lose money. Like, fear stops us from doing a lot of things. It might be fear of failure, fear of success. I see people that are afraid to be successful, fear of losing money, fear of not doing the right thing, of hurting somebody, like all of these things that add up in us, right? And it stops us from actually committing and doing the thing that we really want to do. Like, I'll do this thing as long as I don't have to do this. And like, you want the end goal, but you don't want to go through the process. So that fear stops us. And I think like action trumps fear a lot. Like, you've really got to go out and do it. So what if you break even? So what if you lose $1,000? Like, look at it, like really analyze what's stopping you and what the problems are, and say, like, is it really that big of a deal? Like, what would it do to you if you broke even on a house if you didn't make money? Like, that is the best education you could possibly get. You got a free education at that point. If you lose money, you pay $1,000, you maybe lose $5,000. It was a $5,000 education on what not to do in the future and how to actually flip a house, run the numbers. What did you learn? As long as you don't continue to do that over and over and over again, you're learning from it. It's huge. And typically, you might be trying to make 25 or 30,000, and then even if you end up making 15, some people are upset about that. It's like, you just got paid $15,000 for a life lesson in flipping a house, right? You did it. And so I look at it as, it's really like a win-win-win situation when you go out there and you actually do something. I see so many people will listen to podcasts, they'll read books, they'll show up at meetings, and they'll do it over and over and over again for years and not jump in and just say, oh, my time is coming. Like, I'm going to wait till the next downturn. I'm going to wait till the next recession. I'm going to wait till the next opportunity comes around. The opportunity is in front of you right now. You just can't see it. So I think the first misconception is that you need to be the expert and know everything and learn it all before you actually go out and do something. And so the action takers, I find, are usually the people who will reach success, and they'll take the next step and the next step and the next step, and they're not going to let anything stop them. Fear is okay. I'm not saying that fear is a bad thing. It definitely keeps us going in the right direction typically, and not getting too out of control. But don't let it consume you. So that's me. Like the taking action piece is huge for us as real estate investors.
Thank you ever so much for that. I think I'm one of the people that earlier on fell into that misconception, because I just kept learning and learning and learning and learning and never took action. Good. So at least our audience know that look, whatever it is, just go out there and do it. You do it, you can stumble, you can fall and learn from your mistakes, and you just move on. If you don't do anything, you will never move on. Thank you. So do we have a second misconception that you can give to us when it comes to real estate and house flipping?
Yeah, you know, we talked a lot about, like, I need to have money. Like, I really think this is a huge one that we've kind of already covered. But a lot of people think they have to know somebody. They have to have the rich uncle, the rich aunt, the rich parents. They have to have a lot of money in their bank account. It takes a lot of money to get going. And you know, I don't think it's true. I think that, like, we talked about time and money, but really, like, don't let that stop you. That's a huge. I hear that's the objection that holds almost everybody back. It's like, I can't afford to buy a $350,000 house or even a $100,000 property. They're thinking they need all that money out of pocket. and that like cash buyers are actually paying with cash that are in their bank account typically. So huge misconception. Since we already talked about that a ton, I want to touch on a little bit about like actually paying for things, because I think a misconception is that anybody out there who's charging for something is a crook or is ripping you off potentially. So like this was a huge misconception of mine in the beginning. I actually wouldn't even buy a book. I was so cheap when I got started in real estate. I would go to the library. So I had a library card. I'd go to the library. I'd check the book out. I wouldn't even buy it. And so it was a huge leap for me to actually invest in myself and spend some money, because I looked at it as an expense. I looked at everything that I did as an expense. And like, that's going to cost me $1,000 and I'm going to have to go make 1,000 back to make it up. But I told you I was an engineer. So I have a undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering. I have a master's degree in aeronautical engineering. The US government paid $1.6 million. They paid £1 million. At the time, it was 1.6 million, probably changed since then, to send me to test pilot school. So like the amount of money that's been invested in my education from the formal education side that I'm using none of it right now is massive. And I was afraid to invest in myself. Like I wouldn't put any money into my education on the personal development side and the business side that I wanted to start. And I was trying to bootstrap it and do it all myself without actually like shortcutting the learning curve by buying something. So I think that's a big misconception in the fact that, you look at it as an expense to spend money, and you don't look at it as an investment in yourself and your future and what's going to happen. So my mastermind group that I joined, this group 7-Figure Flipping that I own now, I paid $25,000 to get in there. I went from a library card carrying person that wouldn't even buy a book to taking this huge leap to spend $25,000. And that took me from one deal to 67 deals and almost $700,000 in gross profit that year. I probably made $500,000 that year personally. And like that return on that investment, a 20-time return in the first year is amazing. And it's made me millions over the past few years. And it was just that one decision that I could have said, you know what, like everybody says that I shouldn't do this. Why would I do this? And so I see that's a huge, huge, huge stopping point for a lot of people, is that now that they won't spend money on themselves. They won't invest in themselves. And I think what you have to think about is like, do you believe in yourself? Yes. Do you believe that you can do it? Because if you don't have the belief, I agree, you shouldn't invest in yourself. But when I look back and I'm like, the best investment I could possibly make is in me. Like, I don't want to invest in Starbucks, and I don't want to invest in Apple and all these stocks and people I can't control or do anything about. Like, I want to invest in myself. I believe in myself. And I always have. But now looking back, it was a totally different concept and mindset that I had going into it. And what I will say is, if you are looking to go out there and spend some money with somebody, anybody, it doesn't matter, like buying even a product, a course, an event, or a huge mastermind, like find the person that resonates with you, that you feel good about it. Like so everybody's out there selling something. And so just be careful, do your homework, do your due diligence, and find somebody that you can relate to. They've been through where you need to go through, and they're like driven to help and support you. Because there is some bad apples out there. And I will say that for sure. And don't beat yourself up if you did invest in something that didn't work in the past for you, to go try something else. Because a lot of times, you learn from that mistake, and then you might just be like one thing away from the huge breakthrough that you need. I was fortunate enough to invest in the right person in the right company from the beginning in myself. But there's plenty of people that like will come to us or won't be right for us in what we do now and go somewhere else. So, and full disclosure, like I own a company now that helps other investors grow their business too. So, so you take what I said with a grain of salt, but I'm the guy who I was paying member for years. And then I eventually started working in the company. I eventually bought it. So, I've been where you are. Like I was at the point where I was like, I can't believe that I'm spending this money, but looking back, it's best decision, best money I ever spent. So huge misconception, I think, is like, don't invest in yourself or look at it as an expense. Look at it as an investment in you and where you're going.
What you've told us there is so, so true. And I think for some people, what really holds them back is when they've done one investment in themselves, another investment, and it's not yielding fruit, they tend to just withdraw, that it's not working. But just like you've mentioned, the fact that you did it once and it didn't work, and the second one did not work, it's not going to work the third time. You just keep doing it. A lot of people spend so much money in their education. Just believe in yourself, invest in yourself. Awesome. That's really, really good. Because without investing in yourself, there's no way you can get to where you want to get to. Thank you very much for that second one. Can we just take one more misconception, and then we jump into the tips that you have for us when it comes to flipping properties?
Yeah, well, one thing I'll say is it's probably the fact that a lot of people get started in this business saying, I don't have the skills, like I don't have the skill set. And so a big one is that a big misconception for me when I got started, I'm going to go back to the engineering side. I want to know how things work. I want to jump in. I want to do everything myself. And I thought that I had to learn everything. I had to be good at marketing. I had to be good at sales. I had to be good at the construction. I had to be good at bookkeeping. I had to be good at all of it. And when it was just me. And what I've realized over time is that there's people who are a lot better at this stuff than me. Yeah. And I got to be willing to let them do what they're really good at and offload and shed off the things that I'm not good at. So that was really hard for me because I'm kind of like this person who wants to do it all. I want to figure it all out. I want to know how everything works. And so over time, I've gotten a lot better at this. But to be able to kind of delegate some of the tasks and things to other people, I was really afraid to hire somebody in the beginning. I was definitely afraid of it. I didn't want to be responsible for somebody else's paycheck. And now the transition that I've made over the past few years, it's like there's nothing better than hiring people. Like I'd much rather hire somebody to do something so I can work on what I'm really good at, like my genius zone, my superpower, where I'm good, and work there and spend all my time there, and let somebody else that their superpower is doing the details or the bookkeeping or answering the phones, things like that. Perfect example of this is when I was in Florida and I was starting my marketing and I was getting phone calls in. I hate talking on the phone. I just hate it. I can't stand it. I don't want to talk on the phone if my phone rings. I usually mute it. I don't know how long they're going to talk to me. I don't know what they want. So I don't like it. And I also didn't have the time for it. So what I would do is I would not send out as much marketing because I didn't want to get all the calls in. It was subconscious. I was like, I know I have to do this to get more deals, but I don't want to answer the phone. So I'm going on vacation next week. So I can't send out my mail this week because the phone's going to ring and I'm going to be on vacation, or I'm doing this trip, or I got to work for the Navy this week. So when I hired that person, they came in, what I realized was I didn't care how many letters and mailers I sent. I didn't care how much marketing I did. I didn't care how many times the phone rang because I didn't have to answer it. And she loves to answer the phone. She talk on the phone like all day, talk. And so she loved it. And so I could just turn up the dial. And that's why we were successful, was that one little decision to outsource and offload the thing that I don't like to do, that I'm not good at, to somebody who's really good at it. So I think the big thing is you don't have to be good at everything. You don't have to do all the work in the company. You don't have to be the one who's fixing up the house and swinging the hammer and all that stuff. And you don't have to be good at construction to flip houses. I know a guy who can't barely even screw a light bulb in, and he's amazing at doing this. He's really good at systems and running process and people, and he's really great at that. But he doesn't know the first thing about like what kind of flooring to lay in the living room, or what kind of underlayment that needs to go under there, or what radiant heating is in the floor. Like he just doesn't know how to do all that stuff. He's not laying tile, and he's running a multi-million-dollar business. So surround yourself with the right people, the experts in their field, and be able to go look for who already knows how to do that stuff, and you don't have to figure out how to do it all.
Thank you so much. Right. The next question is, do you have some tips, some tricks that you want to give to our audience when it comes to flipping houses?
Yeah. I think the biggest tip is that I'll give you is, we've kind of touched on it a little bit, is don't be afraid to go out there and take some action. Go out and do. Don't just sit back. If this is really what you want and it's really where you want to go, and don't be afraid to do one. Go do one, go see if it's for you. And then don't be afraid to say, this isn't for me. Hey, this, I've seen so many people come and they're like, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to make this work. I'm going to make this work. And they end up doing something that they don't love to do. but go out there and take action. Like go take just, we haven't talked a ton of specifics on this in this conversation, and like very small, like technique type stuff. And I'll say the reason that I haven't specifically is because that kind of stuff, like taking action and going out there and doing the thing and trying it out, that will trump the techniques every time. Like your mindset and the way that you think and what the conversation that you're having in your head right now, of like why you shouldn't, that's the problem that's holding you back. It's not the fact that you don't know how to do something. It's not the fact that you like, that stuff's easy. Go send out a card, go knock on a door, go find a distressed property, go to an auction, go talk to a bunch of other people at an investment club meeting. Like, how are other people finding deals? You can go figure that stuff out. Like, but the problem that's going to hold you back and that people don't realize, they're always looking for the silver bullet. They're looking for that marketing channel that's going to yield the most leads. They're looking for the perfect thing to say to a seller. They're looking for all that stuff. But the key is like that conversation that you're having in your head, that limiting belief that you have, that mindset problem that you struggle with, that is the thing that's holding you back. It's not the fact that you don't have the tactics or the secret strategies, secret sauce. Now, the one thing that I will tell you is the secret, I think, to anybody who's going directly to seller or negotiating sales contracts is to listen. Like listen, like truly listen. If you can listen, and this goes for anything, this isn't just buying houses and flipping houses. If you could truly listen to people, and I struggle with this, I'm going to tell you right now, I like to talk and I like to wait for my turn to talk. And that's a big problem, right? So if you can truly listen to people and find out where their problem is, and if you can solve their problem, then you'll win in life and in business. And that goes for anybody. So the biggest tip I can give you is it's a people business. Like take action, number one. Number two, it's a people business. Everything that you do comes down to the people, whether it's the contractor that you're having problems with right now, it's your fault. Like you're not listening. You don't understand. You hired them, like all these things. The person on your team or staff, your relationship with your family, your spouse, your kids, your business, whatever it is, like listen to what other people need and figure out how to solve problems. If you can solve problems, you'll make a lot of money. And that's it. Like we make money. We trade this currency that we have, this thing that we have, for value somehow. And that exchange of value is so important. Like that other person they're trading equity. In our case, in houses, they're trading their equity for speed and ease of transaction, typically. Some problem that they have that they're offloading to you. And you're giving them some amount of money that they value more than the problem that they're giving to you. So that's, if you think about it that way, then you'll go into every meeting, every conversation that you have, trying to deliver more value than you're asking for in return of payment. You're going to do really well.
Awesome. That's really good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Bill, I know that you have an event coming up in October, which is an amazing event. Do you want to just talk to our audience about that event? It's something that is really going to benefit the audience and people listening to this.
Yeah, absolutely. So we every year we put on an event. This is the 5th year that we've done it. And we have this big event called Flip Hacking Live. So I actually have a shirt on today. So I just got this in the mail today. We put some new logos together and stuff like that. And so this year we've got 24 speakers over 3 days that are going to talk about flipping and wholesaling houses and mindset and strategy and motivation and all the tips, tactics, secrets, techniques, all that stuff that you're looking for. Like that's baked in, as well as a lot of the mindset stuff. So I actually just did a call yesterday with the majority of the speakers, and we talked about exactly what they're going to talk about. So I have somebody talking about like closing virtually, like having trouble going into people's houses and stuff like that, closing over the phone. We're going to talk about marketing channels. And really the concept of this event where I'm going is like, what's coming? What's the opportunity that's in the future? And how can we prepare ourselves now for that? And so I'm bringing the speakers on the stage with that mindset to set up their presentation. One guy's going to talk about networking, how I think that deals are going to be a little bit cheaper to come across in the future. And because of that, I think networking is going to be really key. Like how do we go back to some of the foreclosures, some of the short sales, some of the different strategies that we haven't had to use in a long time because it's been a seller's market. And if we move to a buyer's market, then it's going to be a little bit different. And we're going to have to pivot and shift a little bit from our business model and how we're doing things. So that's the concept behind it. It's a 3-day event. It's virtual, so anybody can attend. We are running it in Eastern time zone. So it's 11 o'clock to about 8 or 9 o'clock at night Eastern, a Thursday, Friday. And then Saturday, we go from 11 o'clock in the morning till about 5:30 Eastern time. So if you are in the UK, it'll be a little bit late night. You just have to, adjust your sleep schedule and come spend some late nights with us and start in the evening. I was just in an event recently that did the same thing, and they had people in Australia, in the UK, and over in Europe, like Germany and the Netherlands, and some of those people that were in the groups with me on the breakout sessions. And it was like 2 o'clock in the morning for some people over in Australia in the morning for me. So it was wild to see that they are staying up all night to get this kind of information. So it's a lot of fun. It's a 3-day event. And I use virtual, we don't need another Zoom meeting right now. We don't need another extended webinar. This is an experience. We're going to send you a box. I don't care where you live. We're going to send you a box of swag, like a cool box before the event that has just like you are going to a live event. You're checking in. You actually check in with a person one-on-one. And before you get there, you get your bag of goodies that's going to come to your house. And so it's a full-on immersive experience. I've got a lot of cool things planned. We're building out a studio in North Carolina that has a live stage. We're going to present from the live stage. I'll be there. Some of my team will be there. And we'll be bringing in the industry experts on flipping and wholesaling and mindset and really just make sure that everybody leaves better than they came. So that's the goal of this event. So it's called Flip Hacking Live. If you want, are you okay if I give away some bonuses to them if they get a ticket and they listen to this podcast?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So I've got some pretty cool bonuses that James and I talked about before the podcast. So if you're a listener to this podcast, you're a follower of James and everything that he's doing, then I've got a promo code for you, and you can actually unlock a secret ticket that we set up. He kind of talked me into giving away some of my stuff. So if you go to Flip Hacking Live, so Flip Hacking Live, it's right here on my shirt, .com, you can go to get ticket, and then right there, it'll take you to an Eventbrite site. And right at the top, it says add promo code, like add/enter promo code. And if you put in the promo code wealth, so obviously the beginning of this name of this podcast, wealth, just one word right there, it'll unlock a secret ticket. And that'll give you previous recordings, and it'll also give you some training. So the previous recordings of the last 4 years will be in there. We've never sold those before in the past. And then also we've got this 4-hour seller finance training that I absolutely love, that we typically sell for $1,500 that we put in there too. So we'll package all that up for you guys. If you use the code wealth, then you guys can get it. My team will set you up with a membership site, and you can watch all that stuff up before the event. So really cool. You can watch some of the previous recordings prior to showing up and get excited about it and see what it's all about.
Awesome, Bill. Thank you so much. And also to add to what Bill is giving to you, I'm going to give you my book, my ebook for free. As soon as you're able to register for this awesome event, this awesome program, you just let me know, and I'll send you my ebook for free, which is how to invest in real estate, how to get real estate to give you a passive income. So thank you very much, Bill, for this insights that you've given to us, the tips, the tricks, and the secrets to flipping houses. Thank you so much. We're so grateful to you.
Well, thanks for having me, James. I had a good time.
Thank you. So once again, we are ending this podcast, but I just want you to just go straight down and register for this event, Flip Hacking Live. Don't miss it, because you are going to really get so much from it. Bill is bringing amazing speakers to speak in this event. Just let me know as soon as you get that, and your bonus will be right there for you. Thank you.